Hey, it's Ryan Seacrest. Life comes at you fast, which is why it's important to find some time to relax. A little you time. Enter Chumba Casino. With no download required, you can jump on anytime, anywhere for the chance to redeem some serious prizes. So treat yourself with Chumba Casino and play over 100 online casino-style games, all for free. Go to ChumbaCasino.com to collect your free welcome bonus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new episode of Hot Topics. So, if you have no idea what we are about, where have you been? We've been at this for a while now, but just in case you are new to the show, let me tell you what we're about. So, this is the web series where we like to talk that real talk, right? We like to talk about things that no one really thinks about, no one really asks about, no one really ponders about, or there might be something that you always wanted to know, but you never really got to find out, things like that. So we like to take those things that are in the back and we like to bring them to the front, and we like to be open, we like to be real, we like to be down and dirty here. So that's how we roll here at Hot Topics. So we are a tutoring company, a step ahead tutoring services. So we tend to focus on particular topics. So we tend to focus on things in health, mental health, finance, education, entrepreneurship, all that. So we tend to focus on certain topics. But basically, our idea is that any topic that we bring to the forefront, we like to explore using an educational point of view, an informational point of view. So basically, whatever topic that we bring forth, we are here to teach you and we are here to educate you. And our guests, they tell their life stories. And I personally believe that anyone's life story is what's the word? Anyone's life story is a thing of teaching, an instruction. I can't think of the word, but you know what I'm trying to say. Someone's life story is someone else's survival guide. Yes. I wanted to quote that in there. That's what I'm trying to say. And I have a guest on the hot seat, and she is she's getting on the hot seat. I'm trying to get all my words together. She's getting on the hot seat. She's with me today, and I can't wait to bring her on. So her name is Sandi Masori. I hope I'm saying her name right. Sandi Masori, and she is going to be on the hot seat. And give me one second. I'm just going to there it is. Okay. So let's get right into it. Who is Sandi Masori? Oh my God, I forgot the title of the episode. I'm telling you, I'm all over the place today. Before I even get to that, I forgot the name of the episode. So the name of the episode is Living with a Disability Part 5. So as you can tell, there's a part 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those videos are on our social media right now. So wherever you are watching this program, whether that's live or on the replay, check out our social media. You will find the other parts there. But we like to repeat topics because we believe that there is more than one way to see a single topic, and there are multiple perspectives and there are multiple stories to see the same thing. So that's why we like to repeat topics here on Hot Topics. So with that said, and the disability of discussion is once again attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or which is commonly known as ADHD. This topic was in part 4, and we're bringing it back. We're bringing it back, people. Um, so don't be alarmed. We are repeating this on purpose for your benefit. All right, now I will introduce the guest. Her name is Sandi Masori, and I am going to tell you who she is. So, who is Sandi Masori? I hope I'm saying her name right. Let me tell you who she is. So, Sandi Masori is a self publishing strategist. She's a YouTube creator and formerly known as America's top balloon expert. Though she has achieved high honors, she's always felt like she was the black sheep of the family. Mm. Though she was a textbook case of ADHD, she she was the smart girl in the 70s and 80s. They didn't diagnose her as ADHD or hyperactive. They just labeled her a behavior problem and repeatedly told her if you would just sit down and focus. She was finally diagnosed in grad school while pursuing a teaching credential. It was like a light went off, and for the first time, she understood that it wasn't her fault. There was something else at play. All right. Well, I have some questions for her. So let's get right to it. I'm going to bring her to the stage right now.
Hey, happy Friday!
Hi, how you doing?
Great, great. Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so you definitely have a wealth of experience to share, and I can't wait to get right into it. Um, so I'm gonna hand you the baton, and I'm gonna have you. It's Friday. I'm gonna have you tell your life story.
Wow, okay. Gosh, where do I start? So, like you said, I mean, I was a textbook case. But growing up in the 70s and 80s, girls weren't, they would diagnose the boys hyperactive, but the girls, they didn't think that we could be hyperactive. I guess they thought it was just a boy thing. And the way that I actually found out that I was ADHD, I always knew that something was different. I always knew that I reacted differently to certain things, and that my brother was the golden child getting straight A's, and I was, the difficult kid, straight C student no matter what I tried. And actually, if you look at my grades through high school and college, you can pretty much go, oh, she liked that teacher, she didn't like that teacher, she liked that teacher, she didn't like that one. Because having a teacher that believed in me and that would help me and that supported me and that understood that my abilities and maybe my behavior or even what was showing up on the test were not the same, made a world of difference. And similarly, those teachers that treated me like I was neurotypical and that I should just be just like everybody else, I didn't do well, not surprisingly. But the way that I got diagnosed was when I was in grad school. I was studying to be a teacher. And as I was doing my credential program, we went through a mainstreaming class. And in the mainstreaming book, there was a paragraph about that big. It was literally a paragraph about ADHD. And I read that and I thought, oh, I want to learn about this because I was a difficult kid in school. Like in elementary school, my mom, she had her own chair in the principal's office. I mean, they were like we didn't text back then in the 70s, but, they were on like a very close relationship basis because of how often I was called into the office. And so I thought, okay, maybe I can learn about this and, help these kids. So I started reading about it on my own. And as I read about it, actually, it wasn't even as I read about it. It was as soon as I opened up the book that it just struck me like, oh my God, this is me. This is my story. And so then I went to, a psychologist, psychiatrist, I always forget which is which, and got formally diagnosed. And, the questions that he asked me, questions that I wouldn't have even thought meant anything, like when you walk down a hall, Do you put your hands out and run your hands down the wall? Like, that never occurred to me that was a thing that I was doing that, had anything to anything. I it was just, something I always did. He had me try to count backwards by threes. And of course, I kept losing my place and having to go backwards and forwards. And the same thing to try to do the alphabet backwards, and basically different tasks that would require a kind of sustained focus that I wasn't able to do. So there it was. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty clear. And it was like, on the one hand, such a weight went off of me. It was such a relief. It was like, oh my God, I'm not a screw up. There's something else happening. I'm not neurotypical, right? I'm not just like everybody else, right? And if I had just a penny for every time in my life that I have heard, well, everybody else, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Well, I'm not everybody else. So anyways,
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, that's how I found out that I was ADHD. And since I wasn't diagnosed until grad school, I wasn't put on medication until grad school. So, I learned some coping skills, and I think that one of the greatest gifts of ADHD is our ready, fire, aim personality, right? I mean, it can be a good and a bad thing, right? Like, I have no filter on my mouth. If it goes through my head, it's coming out my mouth, which can be good and it can be bad. Nobody could ever possibly blackmail me because literally everything is out in public. I can't, hide things or do secrets or whatever. I mean, if somebody tells me a secret and says, don't tell anybody this, then I lock that down because now I'm focused and conscious of it. But short of that, who knows what's coming out my mouth? But the superpower part of it is that impulsivity, that passion for things that we're naturally excited about and attracted to, we can move mountains, right? And that ready, fire, aim thing. I mean, yes, sometimes it can lead to sticky situations, but it can also lead to greatness. And every jump that I've taken in my life, has turned out. I mean, maybe it's like a cat that, mid flip, I'm like figuring out how to land on my feet, but it's definitely happened so many times in my life that it's like, I just did something and then it's like, oh my God, what did I do? Okay. How do we make it work? So I think that's another blessing of ADHD is we're really good when we're under fire, when we're under pressure, when the clock is ticking or when it's an emergency. We do really well. And the other thing is that with the way that, they say that you can't multitask, but I do multitask. And, I mean, my brain is working on multiple tracks at all times. And so sometimes I will come up with things that I don't know where they came from. I don't know. I can't give you the argument or the background of I found it from here. And then I thought about this. And then I thought about this. But sometimes I will have, if I can modestly say, flashes of brilliance or insight that can help me, that can help other people. But what I can't do is defend my position. I can't defend where it came from. So I'm a terrible debater because and improv. Oh my God, I hate improv because I just get stuck in like analysis paralysis, right? So anything that's going to lead me to think or analyze too much is going to make me stuck because I won't be able to get out of that loop. Whereas anything that I do that I trust my intuition, that I just dive into, I'm going to probably be okay. I mean, that's not that everything I do succeeds, obviously, but I manage. I find a way. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I could talk for hours, but hey, let's have some questions.
All right. Well, I wanted to have you get all that out. All right. So, in the bio and um yeah, but in the bio you were referred to as a behavior problem.
Yes.
Can you delve more into that?
Yeah. So, okay, by middle school, I figured out how to be cute, right? How to, how to manage and whatever. But in elementary school, especially lower elementary school, so let's start with kindergarten, I was not a napping kid. I hated nap time and was very disruptive during the nap time because I couldn't settle myself down. So I just disturbed everybody else, right? So first grade and kindergarten nap time was when I got in the most trouble. And in second and third grade, um, it was for talking out of turn. I just couldn't shut up. And I remember, I mean, my name was always on the blackboard. Right? Remember, old school, old school discipline, right? Your name on the blackboard, and then the checks. And if you get so many checks, you get sent to the principal's office, and so many more checks, and you get suspended for a week. My name was always on the board, always. In fact, so we had the quiet corner again, old school discipline. So I'm, gosh, it would have been in like 1979, 1978, something like this. So we're going back a ways. Anyhow, we had the quiet chair in the corner, and that was my chair. I mean, I was sent there all the time. And I remember that there was even one time that, like, I knew that I was going to get in trouble for speaking, and I even like was like holding, I don't know if I had like, if it was like deja vu or whatever, but I was even like this, and I still couldn't help myself. It bubbled out. Um,
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
and I remember that in third grade, we had a student teacher named Mr. Steve. And he was the first, probably because he was a student teacher and he was new, and, we didn't know that back then. I mean, I didn't as a 7-year-old. He was just a teacher. But he tried so hard to help me. So I remember that he told me, if you can go a whole day without getting any check marks, I'm going to bring you this cookie. And he brought me this like giant cookie that was bigger than my face. And then another time he told me, well, he knew that I couldn't go without getting my name on the board. So he didn't set me up for failure by saying I couldn't even get my name on the board, just no checks. And he gave me a lot of chances to, reconsider my behavior. But so then he said, okay, if you can go a whole week without getting any check marks, I'm going to take you to Baskin Robbins. I mean, of course, he got permission from my parents and everything like that. And I was so excited about that, and I almost lost it. And if it weren't for the fact that he was trying so hard to catch me being good and to maybe not see some of my transgressions, I wouldn't have gotten that prize. And there were so many other field trips that I didn't get to go on in elementary school because I was in trouble. So many other activities that I didn't get to do. And not just that, I mean, talking about learning disabilities or learning challenges, I'm not great with numbers. My mind, I'm very text oriented. I read like crazy. And obviously, I mean, I help people publish. So, but I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a math person. So in 5th grade, I was in the gifted class being pulled out for tutoring on my multiplication table, which, everybody else had memorized by 3rd grade. So, so there was that too. And then those learning challenges showed up later, especially in high school and college. I have a problem processing my thoughts. First of all, I process verbally. And second of all, I have a problem processing my thoughts in a timed written format. So again, in high school and college, I wasn't diagnosed. And I knew that a timed essay did not show what I knew. It showed basically, really what it showed was, although I didn't know it at the time, was my ADHD, because I couldn't focus my thoughts into, my thoughts were running faster than my hand could write. And so in college, I told the professors, like, hey, listen, you're not going to see what I really know in this format, but if you give me an oral exam, you will. And so now I wasn't part of student special services or whatever, because I hadn't been diagnosed. Some of my professors were great. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and they said, no problem, take the test, and right afterwards, so I didn't have a chance to study or look at anything, right afterwards, I'll give you an oral exam, just quizzing you on your answers. Or some of them let me take it into a tape recorder. They just sent me into the other room and they let me record my answers. The difference between what I was able to demonstrate in that timed written format and in the oral exam was huge. But not every professor would allow me to do that because I wasn't part of student services, special student services. So, for example, I had a cultural anthropology class, and I loved it. It was one of my favorite classes. And back then, I had an almost photographic memory for text. Right now, I don't. It's 49 years old. Like, so much is in your head, and kids and everything else. Like, who remembers anything these days, right? But back then, I did, and so I led the study group. Nobody in my study group had even opened the book. And every single person that was in my study group got an A based on what I taught them. I got a C- on the test because that was one of the professors that wouldn't let me take it orally, that wouldn't work with me. And even though I could even tell him where in the book, like literally where on the page in the book the information was from the questions, I got a C-. So had I known before that, he would have had to accommodate me and my, I guess my processing style or learning style or whatever. He would have had to accommodate that and give me the test in a format that I could demonstrate my knowledge, not my inability to take the test. So yeah, I kind of went a little bit around, but hey, ADHD. So there you go.
So when it came to I guess your educational upbringing, it sounds like was it challenging for you going through school, going through college, going through graduate school?
Yes and no. So on the one hand, like I said, I'm very blessed to, have an above average intelligence. So the things that I got, and I didn't have to work hard for it. And the things that I didn't get, I didn't get. So for example, I remember in college, I took physics. And I think I even took physics for poets. And I remember I read the page one time 37 times and had no idea what was on it. At the end of the page, after 37 times, it was not interesting to me innately enough to hold my attention. And every single time, 50,000 things are going through my head, and I had no idea what was on the page. So in that way, yes, it could be very challenging. I mean, I guess the blessing of having been undiagnosed is that I've learned to gravitate towards my strengths rather than try to beat myself into submission on my weaknesses, I guess. Which is why I'm an entrepreneur, right? I'm probably not great at working for somebody else, but I'm really good at what I do, which is, I'm a sprinter, not a marathon runner, right? So I know that I have huge energy for projects in the beginning, but if they go too long, then I'm going to lose interest, that I'm not going to be able to see it out. So projects that are, pretty compact in terms of the amount of time that they take, 3-6 months is I can do. That's generally the timeline for helping my authors. And projects that have a definite start and a definite finish, right? So something that you're just doing the same thing day after day after day after day, and there's no progress and there's no benchmarks and there's no sign of success and there's no end, would really not work for me. So I guess by learning to play to my strengths, I learned how to cope in spite of the challenges. But definitely, it shows up even in my, obviously not even in my life, in other ways, in that I can be very overwhelming. My energy can be very overwhelming, right? Because I've got this huge hyperactive energy, which makes me great on camera, but can be very frustrating to be around. As my ex-husband would tell me all the time, you're just overwhelming. You're just too much. And so, when I meet somebody and I start to become friends with them, I almost feel like I need to give them a care and feeding manual, so that they understand that, um, if I say something offensive, I absolutely didn't mean it. I'm careless with my words, even though I try to be careful. But again, that's that, think it, say it, no filter thing. And I don't know how to read people. So I really depend on people to tell me straight to my face what's going on, because I never want to hurt somebody. I never want to offend somebody. And if I have, and you let me know, then I will make it right away. But I really have difficulty with passive aggressive people because I don't know how to read them. I can't read between the lines. And so this is something that even today, at 49 years old, is a huge struggle. So I don't know if I answered your question or.
So I'm guessing like complicated emotional responses are hard for you to read. So things like sarcasm or sarca- sarcasm, irony, things like that may be hard for you to detect.
Well, sarcasm is usually pretty blatant. I mean, I can get sarcasm, but what I don't get maybe is like somebody with a dry sense of humor. I believe everything, So, for example, my maiden name is Harrison. And my dad told me when I was really little that we were related to George Harrison of the Beatles, that he was our cousin, and never told me that he was teasing me and that he was joking. And so in college, I brought somebody home and I'm like, oh yeah, and George Harrison is our cousin. And my dad looks at me, he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you told me that. He's like, no, he's not our cousin. So I don't get when people are I guess are teasing or dry sense of humor. But sarcasm is, that I can usually get. That's usually pretty blatant. But again, passive aggressive is the thing that's the hardest for me, right? If you tell me it's okay, then I believe you. If you tell me that you don't have a problem with something, then I believe you. And if you do have a problem with it, or if you don't, if you have a problem with something and you don't say it, but you expect me to figure it out because maybe you're acting slightly differently, I'm not going to get it at all. And I'm just going to go on thinking that everything is okay. And honestly, I mean, a lot of my relationships end very explosively because of that, because I'm unable to read those tiny little signals.
And that it when it comes to social relationships and um even connecting with clients, I can imagine that could be um particularly with clients and when financial transactions are involved, I can imagine that could be difficult in trying to read people.
Yeah. I mean, I think that my biggest challenge with clients is that, or with really more with prospecting clients, is I'm not pushy enough. I don't have that aggressive personality. And I don't know when somebody's like saying no or not now, but it's really kind of a convince me. So again, I take it at face value. So if they're like, oh, it's just not the right time, then my answer is always like, okay, well, I'm here if you're, when you're ready, rather than maybe leading them into a conversation of what's holding you back or things like that. Done all this sales training and it doesn't feel natural to come out of my mouth, so I'm not good at it. So I probably leave a lot of money on the table with clients, but the clients that do work with me, we have a great relationship because I'm not everybody's cup of tea, right? So the people that work with me are attracted to my energy and to my blatant honesty, right? I mean, I'm not I'm not going to BS people, right? So I tell my clients sometimes what they don't want to hear, but it's the truth. So the clients that do work with me appreciate that.
Awesome. All right. So you mentioned it a couple times. You talked about coping skills. Let's get into that. What were
Yeah.
those coping skills?
Okay, so here's one coping skill, and I see this in my children as well, who are also ADHD. Um, and that is that until the last minute, it's not going to get done. And I know that doesn't necessarily sound like a coping skill, but the coping skill is this. Even if I try to do it way in advance in the right time zone, for whatever reason, my brain is not ready to turn on or have those flashes of brilliance or the insight or whatever. I don't know I mean, I don't know the I guess the neuro whatever that's going on and causing that, but whatever it is, there's something there. And however, in that 11th hour, I am amazing, stressed out, but amazing. And my children are the same, right? And that's when, things get pulled from, seemingly our butt, right? That totally work. And so the coping skill is that I've learned not to try to force myself to start too soon, because that's just going to make me frustrated. And to trust that. And then also to accept that there's going to be stress, right? That all-nighter or whatever is going to be stressful, but I'm going to get the great result. Other coping skills are, like I said, I try to do things that I'm going to do well or that work for me. And instead of forcing, for example, taxes, right? I don't understand taxes. I don't understand how the numbers work out. It just makes my head spin. Like, I mean, every time somebody tries to explain it to me, it's just like, I don't get it. So I have an accountant, I have a bookkeeper, like I need to have support in those areas that I'm not good at and I'm not going to be good at, rather than trying to force myself to be good. So then there's always the argument, well, that's great if you can afford it or whatever. But to me, I can't not afford it. So, my belief, I guess, on money making, and, obviously this comes from that entrepreneurial mindset is, okay, so go make more money, right? So if I need $3,000 for an accountant, then my next question to myself is, okay, so what do I need to do to find that $3,000, right? Who can I sell something to? What can I do to create that? And so those are the coping skills that I've learned to, I guess, work with my strengths and weaknesses, and I guess stay in my lane, and really to trust when I do that ready, fire, aim, and I dive in, to trust that I'm going to land on my feet and I'm going to be okay, because there's always that moment afterwards of, oh my God, what did I do? Like,
How to have fun, anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
and so trusting yourself in that. I mean, there's also other things like, lists. I mean, nothing's going to get done unless I can get it out of my head onto paper. Realizing that I process verbally. So for example, let's talk about toxic positivity, right? So since I process verbally, in order for me to process my feelings, I need to be able to vent about it. I need to be able to, as we say in Yiddish, kvetch, I need to be able to complain. I need to be able to talk about it until I work it out. If I can't talk about it, and I really felt this during the pandemic, being so isolated, it's like I'm just screaming in my head to myself. And I feel like, if you ever saw that, the Scream by Edward Munch, that painting of, just like it's going in circles in my head and I can't get it out. So, so to have people around that I can bounce things off of. And again, if you're lucky enough to have a good friend or a family member who can fill that role for you, that's amazing. If not, I mean, like I have a coach exactly for that purpose, because if I can't process what I'm thinking and feeling verbally, then I'm stuck and I have zero momentum. So that's another one.
All right. So just to clarify, so in terms of coping skills, you you trust yourself, right? That's one. You use a lot of lists to get things down. So you don't try to keep it all in your head. You try to write it on paper. Um, what else? I think you mentioned a few others.
Yeah,
Uh,
processing verbally. So
yes,
having to
processing.
throw things out.
Yes, yes. Sorry. Oh, yeah. So processing verbally. So being aware of that and doing doing your business and the way you organize your life, doing it verbally. Um, so you're
I think the biggest thing is playing to my strengths, right?
yeah,
It's being aware of where my strengths are, um, and where they're not, and getting other people or hiring other people if possible, or getting other people to do the things that I'm not good at, instead of beating myself up that I'm not good at it and trying to force myself to do it.
absolutely, absolutely. So you are aware of your weaknesses and you find ways to compensate for that. So whether that's hiring somebody, writing it down, processing things verbally, you're aware of your flaws and you work to address it in one way or another.
Right. And not making myself wrong or feel guilty for not not being able to do something that everybody else maybe is. So for example, yoga. Yoga makes me crazy. There's nothing more stressful to me than yoga. I don't do it. I've gone a couple of times with friends because they told me it will help me clear my mind and blah. But no, 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 no. Oh my God, it does the opposite, because where everybody else is like having to be so calm and quiet, that's stressing me out, because I'm, especially in that moment, feeling even more hyper, and then feeling that I can't express myself or make noise, or I don't want to disturb everybody else, so it becomes a very stressful experience for me. So I don't do yoga. Like, when people ask me, hey, do you want to come to a yoga class, instead of trying to force myself to become good at yoga or meditation, I don't do it. Like, I'll do something else. Like, give me something active that I can do that can bring me back to mindfulness, right? Instead of telling me to just sit and do nothing. Maybe something that's like, like there's like the fidget spinners and stuff, right? There's I think it's called PQ reps or something like that, right? Where maybe I'll like rub my fingers like this and try to put my focus into my fingers, or something like that. But it has to be kinesthetic and with movement. I can't just sit. And so I don't put myself in situations that would force me to, because I'm going to fail in that situation.
So I imagine it, I mean, going back to school being tough for you because you have to sit, you know? So I imagine with school that was very tough for you to do that.
Right. Well, so if it's something that I'm interested in, then it's not tough, because so there is the superpower, right? So what a lot of people don't know about ADHD, everybody focuses on the inattentiveness and on, the scatterbrained or the hyperactive. But then there's also this tendency, when we're into something, when we're interested in something, when it's innately interested. Unfortunately, I have not figured out how to trigger this, for something that I don't innately find interesting. We can hyper focus. So what that means is, for me, for example, I mentioned before, I love reading. My preferred genre is paranormal romance. But when I'm in a book, literally, and I do mean literally, the house could burn down around me and I wouldn't notice, because I am completely in my bubble of the book. It's the same thing when I'm working on a project, right? That's really interesting. Or the same thing that when I'm taking a class where the teacher is engaging, or where the subject is deeply interesting to me, it's not a challenge. I just get it. But if and then there are some things that are interesting to me but do take some effort and some work. And then there are things that there's no point. I'm never going to get it. So, one of the things that I've been finding very challenging in this past couple of years is all the Zooms. So I definitely am much more much more attentive, much more interested, much more, I guess, I think it's about the energy, you know, in a live event than an online course or an online, like, I got to the point during the pandemic that I was like, I cannot sit in front of another Zoom. Like, my attention for it is gone. And there's so much else going on or whatever that it's just like, this is not the modality for me. But a live event, you know, absolutely. So so it's not across the board, like every class. It really on, I guess, how much it intrinsically is interesting to me, in whether my focus is, you know, sucked in that hyper focus, or whether I am like, you know, I don't know if you've ever seen Clockwork Orange, like trying to hold my eyes open to stay, you know, engaged in it. I think ADHD should actually, instead of be called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, I think it should be probably called attention inconsistency hyperactivity disorder, because of that flip side of the hyperfocus, which can totally be a superpower.
That's a good point. And just to tag on the part where you say, like, if it was interesting to you, you're more likely to pay attention. I think that's pretty common for anyone with ADHD, even in little kids. You know,
Absolutely.
if it's interesting to you, you know, you're more likely to pay attention, you know. So just wanted to put a star on that point there. So I wanted, if you're comfortable talking about this, you said in the preliminary interview that one of the things that you used to focus was crystal meth.
Okay.
Are you okay talking about that?
Yeah, I don't mind. So we're going back in high school. Just to be clear. In high school, you know, again, back in the 80s, well, I guess crystal meth is big everywhere always now, but back in the 80s, it was really coming up. And in the high school that I went to, it was called Patrick Henry. And there was a big drug bust there. And the news dubbed it Patrick Henry, Let's Get High School. Give me liberty or give me meth. So just to kind of set the scene a little bit. But I found that it wasn't a party drug for me. It wasn't fun for me. It didn't give me the same feeling that it gave everybody else. But what I did find is that if I had just a tiny bit and I would swallow it, I didn't snort it, I could stay up all night and study. And I could, you know, I could cram for the tests and I could sustain focus. And I think the reason that I had mentioned it to you in the preliminary interview was because I had said that it was a question that, had I been asked earlier, I could have been diagnosed earlier. So, for example, I think in my first year of college, they put me on Prozac for depression, but it was the wrong medication because I wasn't actually depressed. Clinically, I think it was more situational. I think it was more growing up being told that, you know, if you would just sit down and focus, you know, you're so smart. Why can't you do this? Everybody else can. Why can't you be like everybody else? So I think that's bound to create self-esteem issues and depression issues, right? But it's not something that Prozac can solve because it's not a chemical depression. There's something else at play. So one of the questions that the psychiatrist had asked me is, do you have any history of drug abuse? To which I answered, no, I had never abused drugs in my mind. I had used them medicinally. I had used them as a study aid, but that wasn't abuse. I wasn't partying like some of my friends or taking a line every hour or, you know, like getting strung out or anything like that. It was very much targeted with a purpose. I also knew, had anybody ever asked me, that if I drink too much coffee, right? Like if I had like 5 espresso shots, rather than making me hyper or giving me energy like it would to other people, I would fall asleep. Like it would make me tired. And both of those things are because of the way that, you know, the ADHD brain processes it differently, right? They're not sure if ADHD is, I think they've connected it to dopamine, but they don't know if the dopamine shooter is not shooting or if the receptor is not receiving. Whatever it is, speed fixes that, right? Now, and that's why almost all of the ADHD drugs, not all of them, but almost all of them are stimulant based. The majority of them, the most popular ones. And because it works differently. Now it's really hard to find the right levels. And everybody's brain chemistry is so different, and what works for one person might not work for another. Like myself and my two children, all three of us are on different well, I'm prescribed the medicine. I don't actually take it, but because the side effects, it's hard to get through the 2-week side effect window, but we can get back to that. But that's why. So had they asked me originally, hey, have you ever tried street drugs, or what drugs have you tried and how did they affect you? We might have been able to get the correct diagnosis earlier. But also, I mean, in my experimental phase, like, I realized that nothing affected me the way that it affected other people, even alcohol. I mean, for me, alcohol, I don't have that fun window, that fun giddy window, so I don't drink, right? It goes from, ew, I don't really like the taste, to, oh my God, the world is spinning. I gotta throw up, like, make it stop. Like, so what's the point? I mean, in college, I realized that it was more fun to pretend to be drunk and not have to take any responsibility for anything I did, because everybody thought I was drunk, but then I could drive myself home safely rather than to actually be drunk. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, so back to what you were asking about crystal meth. That was my experience with that. And since I've been diagnosed, and since I've been an adult and not in high school or early college, I have not. I mean, yeah, now I wouldn't. Now I know, and I've seen too much on the flip side of the street drugs. So
Good for you. Good for you. All right, so we're starting to wind down. So, do you have any final words of advice that you'd like to share to our viewers? Any words of wisdom that you would like to impart?
yeah, so we've talked really just about me and my experience. We didn't really talk about my kids or parenting ADHD children or anything like that. So I think anybody that's an adult with ADHD, we've already settled into our habits. We've already discovered our coping mechanisms or whatnot. But I think if there's any parents out there, maybe your kid is ADHD. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Maybe this is your first brush with it, and you're trying to figure out what to do and how to work with them. So it's really important that you don't break their spirit in trying to control their behavior. It's really important that, I mean, look, I was always in trouble. I was always grounded. I mean, always. Like, every privilege I had got taken away because I didn't get good enough grades. I didn't this, I didn't that, right? And again, I thought I was a screw up, right? Even though I went to college, right? I mean, I did the things that you're supposed to do, but even doing those things, I didn't see success in myself, So it's really important, I think, that you learn to work with your kid and with their specialness and their differentness. And so, for example, with my children, I knew from a very young age that they were ADHD, and I didn't want to put them on medication until they asked for it. But I did want to make sure that the teachers didn't break their spirit either. So I told the teachers, like, hey, my child is ADHD. They're going to be wiggly. They're going to talk out of turn, And I understand from having been a teacher and also just being a good person that you can't have one kid disrupting the class and ruining it for everybody. But I also understand that if you just keep trying to discipline this child.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Into a behavior that they're not capable of, that you're breaking their spirit. So instead, please, if my kid is being wiggly, make them the errand boy, right? I had boys. Let them take that letter to the office. You know what? Write a letter to the office to have them take, even if you don't have an official correspondence, because that break can help them then resettle and refocus, right? So I think that enlisting the teachers to help you to help you work with your kids and their special abilities and their special needs, rather than trying to, I guess, force them into compliance. I think that the goal of compliance is a terrible goal for a child. I think the goal should be communication. I think the goal should be understanding. I think that, it's far better to have a conversation with your child and say, okay, I know this is what's going on. Like, what can we do together, right? So I had this with my son, and we came up with a whiteboard. And yes, I have to remind him to put things on the whiteboard. I do have to ask him, like, hey, did you turn in your homework? Because he does the homework, but he doesn't always turn it in. But I guess the important thing is that if you maintain a relationship with your child that is open and that leaves them willing to come talk to you and keeps that communication path open, that is more important than anything else, because that's going to give them the ability to grow, that's going to feed their self-esteem, and that's going to allow them to explore their neurodiversity. I don't like calling it disability. Their neurodiversity with more openness and without shame. And I see so many parents of children who are ADHD or otherwise, neurodiverse, who are trying to, when I say beat them into submission, I don't mean literally beat them, but maybe, verbally or whatever, to be like the neurotypical kids, and they're not. So really look at who your kid is and really evaluate, is this something that, what battle am I fighting? Don't get into the power struggle with them, because that will destroy their self-esteem. Instead, really figure out, like, which is the battle and which is the war, which is the higher goal, what is it that you're really trying to get your kid to do, right? And just to really be mindful, to work with them, and that they work differently, and that it may take some trial and error to find the ways to help them cope and to help them be their best self and tap into the superpowers of it. So that's I guess the biggest thing that I could say is if you're a parent with a neurodiverse child, especially if you're just starting down this road, maybe the teachers just told you, hey, I think your child might be hyperactive or something like that, to really go in there with a child-centered, I guess, view, and be there to advocate and support for your child, not just try to get them to conform.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. All right, I want to try to get to your promo. Time is going. Okay, so you guys, her contact information, Sandi Masori, is scrolling below. She is on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and YouTube. So definitely follow her on all those things, on all social media. And you could check out her website. It is expertbookforyou.com. Can you briefly talk about your services?
Yeah, so I help people self-publish. My main niche is business authority books. So that is people who are establishing themselves as the expert in their niche or industry. But I've also done memoirs. I've done some fiction books. I've done some poetry books. So if you are interested in writing a book, you can visit my website, expertbookforyou.com. And I have an offer of getting a free copy of my best-selling book, Book It, which is a book all about how to write and publish your book without going crazy. So there's a lot of ways to help you get it out of your head and onto paper. I can't get it centered. There we go. Especially if you're someone like me, that maybe is intimidated by the blank page or has a hard time, like getting started or overwhelmed by these kinds of things. So there you go. I invite you to download a free copy of my book, Book It, at my website, expertbook, the number 4 and the letter U.com.
Awesome. And you have a whole list of books on Amazon.com. Oh, I wanted to make that scrolling.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have
From,
I have 7 books on Amazon of my own. Yeah.
all right, I'm just gonna share this quickly. All right, I'm just gonna pull it up on the screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, so there we go. Is your whole book collection here?
Yes. Yes. And you may notice that 6 of the 7 books are about balloons. So that's how I got into books, is that I had a balloon company decorating parties and events, and I started doing marketing to promote my business. And then when I wrote my first book, people started asking me to help them. So it became my side hobby. And then when I got divorced, I pivoted into doing the books full time. So that's why there are such weird, such very diverse subjects as balloons and books.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so she's on Amazon, y'all. All right. All right. Sandi, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. I hope that I hope that I've helped somebody with this interview, and that this was what you were hoping for. Like I said, I know I can just kind of babble, but it goes with the topic.
Of course. Well, let me see if we could get this in here. I wanted to play one of your videos that's on your site. Let me see if I could get it in.
Hello, beautiful people. My name is Herbert Lang. I'm a former 18-year veteran from the Harlem Globetrotters, as well as a former 3-time competitor on CBS's The Amazing Race. Right now, what I'm up to is I'm a motivational speaker as well as best-selling author. And one of the reasons I'm a best-selling author is the help that I received from Sandi. So if you're looking to get out there and get your book into the right hands, I highly recommend the services of Sandi Masori. One last thing before I go, kindness is free. Have an amazing day.
Awesome.
Herb's amazing.
I want to get that in. All right, so thank you for joining me. I'm going to place you backstage now. And you guys, it is just you and I. So, wait, let me get up my banner. Whoa, let me get my banner. Give me 1 second. Get my banner. There it is. Okay. So we have reached the conclusion of our episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. Wherever you are watching this video right now, follow us. Wherever you're watching this video, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or even Instagram, wherever you are watching this video, please follow us on social media. Follow us on social media and check out our other videos and clips so you could catch up on our episodes, so you can learn more about us, the web series. And while you're at it, let us know what you thought about this episode by leaving a comment in the comment section below or in the comment thread. As a reminder, we are a Step Ahead Tutoring Services. So if you would like to learn more about our services, our production, if you're looking for tutoring services for your child or even for yourself, please check out our website, www.astepaheadtutoringservices.com, or you can contact us on social media. The information is scrolling below at the bottom of your screen. And I also encourage you to sign up for our email list and our texting list so you could stay in touch with us, so we can talk to you about our discounts, our events, or you just want, if you just love us and you just want to stick it out with us, definitely sign up for our email list and our texting list. And believe me, it will be worth all the while. All right, so I want to get this last message in before we close.
Hey there, have you heard of us? We're a small team of tutors here at A Step Ahead Tutoring Services. We believe that education and information should be accessible to everyone, regardless of income, race, or creed. We're dedicated to making this happen, but we need your help. Please consider making a donation to our company. No amount is too small. Your donation will allow us tutors to remain employed, offer free and low-cost services, put on productions like this web series, and reach out to families nationwide. With your help, we can tackle the academic challenges of our students and the emotional, mental, and behavioral changes that result from these challenges. As a bonus, we can improve our communities in the process. Support us today. Note: we're a for-profit company. We're not a charity. Your donation may not be tax deductible. Please consult a tax professional.
Absolutely. So please consider making a donation today. And that is it for the episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see you at the next episode. And now, signing off.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.